The Security Weekly News is live on Tuesdays and Fridays at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, most every week. I try to scan and produce a quick look at some major stories to help you keep up with what's going on in and around the industry in a short format. Myself, Jason Wood, and other guest commentators provide greater insight every week. I'm Doug White, and I hope that you will look for the Security Weekly News in all of your favorite podcast catchers and subscribe for the latest content. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul Security Weekly. Did you know cyber threats are evolving, Larry?
What?
Is your organization keeping up?
Yeah.
The 22. It is.
Well, I mean,
if it's not, you're supposed to say it's not.
Oh,
and then I was supposed to say
it's not.
It's not. You're not. You're not. Then I'm supposed to say the 2023 Cybersecurity Year in Review is here and cover the latest challenges and strategic responses in CRA's 2023 Cybersecurity Year in Review, sponsored by the RSA Conference, from all the impact of generative AI to the risk of ransomware to navigating the new SEC rulings. Get ahead for 2024. I mean, it is 2020. It's early in 2024.
But why do I need it? I've got a computer.
You can get a free copy, though.
Oh, it's free. Okay.
It's free. Download the report, securityweekly.com/year in review 2023. Now you got me thinking we should read all of these like commercials and advertisements as like a scripted Paul and Larry conversation, because they would be hilarious. Hilarious.
I got it.
Also, I don't know what's wrong with the middle monitor, but I keep looking up on it and it looks like I'm having a stroke. And I was kind of did a double take and I'm like, did I take my blood pressure medicine today, or am I going to have a stroke live?
Paul?
Like, look at the side of my mouth in the middle monitor.
Paul?
And it's not.
Maybe
you're having a stroke.
I'm hoping I'm not.
It's actually, I think it's because it's swapped.
Now
yes,
it's just mental. Now, like, I feel like
it's on it because number two is on a delay. It's because it's swapped.
It's swapped. Yeah. Where was I? I was
only having a stroke in monitor 2.
Gotcha.
And it isn't even the devices I saw at CES.
Scare me.
Let him finish.
No,
not that kind of device.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Stroke. I go to securitypodcaster.com. That was my only other thing I was going to say. And then we were going to talk about ShmooCon. ShmooCon was great for me. I got COVID before ShmooCon and I couldn't go. So I was like at home with COVID. And what did I do? I like organized all my hacker gear because I was going to bring it all to ShmooCon.
Because you were jonesing for ShmooCon.
And it was already out. And I'm like, so like
But you got to watch the live stream at least, didn't you?
I haven't watched the talks yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah. I will.
Were they live streaming it, or do they just?
I don't know if they were live streaming it. The talks are available afterwards, but
Josh is talking. His lips are moving, but nothing is coming out.
I was looking forward to seeing all of you and all of our friends and the talks. I mean, I was
looking forward to you buying me dinner.
Yeah.
Jeff wanted me to buy him dinner. I had to buy dinner on his own now. It's terrible. Submit an expense
I just
report.
didn't eat.
You didn't eat. You starved the whole weekend.
Josh, I think we can hear you now.
Is Josh back?
Okay. I am back.
Yes.
I've been back. Can you
Josh went to ShmooCon. Now, last year I went to ShmooCon. Jeff and Josh were not there, and I was upset. Mm-hmm. And this year I'm like all excited. I'm like, 2 more of my friends are going to be there now. I mean, Bill wasn't there, but that's too bad. I would think I first met Bill at ShmooCon. It's near and dear to my heart.
I'm going next year. They can't stop me.
That's right. You know what's funny is my wife even recognized. So next year's going to be the last ShmooCon.
Yep.
And that was announced.
Next year's.
I had an inkling.
Next year's the last. Go ahead.
Well, I had an inkling that something was happening. I don't want to disclose how I figured all that out, but I've known a lot of the people involved with ShmooCon for a really long time, and they still amazingly tolerate me to this day. Mm-hmm. Love you, Heidi.
I think you and I went to. We didn't go to ShmooCon 1.
6. No, but it was
like 2 or 3.
No, yeah, but how many? It was Duck Sauce. Well, ironically, it was Duck Sauce that told me about ShmooCon, and Duck Sauce was the reason that I said we should create a podcast.
Yep.
Larry got suckered into it because he was going to the same conference. Like,
we knew each other.
And we knew each other. I'm like, we're going to the same conference. I'm like, Duck Sauce said I should do a podcast. I'm like, you should do a podcast with me. And Larry's like, yeah, sure, I'm in. Big mistake.
Yep. 19 years later.
19 years later, here we are, still sitting at the table drinking, doing a podcast.
Yep.
But a lot of those early days, when was the first ShmooCon?
Oh, you're looking at
next
up.
year's
If I
like
can
an
interject.
You know what though? We gotta have Heidi has to come on the show. Heidi and Bruce both. But Heidi,
Heidi and I got to spend a little more time than we usually spend during the year together because she organized. I don't know if I told this on the air.
You did.
I did. She organized the walk across Rhode Island.
Yep.
So I get to meet up with a bunch of them, Heidi included. So we didn't talk about.
While you're looking up the date, Paul, if I may interject, I missed ShmooCon last year because it was my granddaughter's Make-A-Wish trip to Orlando. And coincidentally, she just went into Johns Hopkins today for her 6-month testing, and she's good.
All clear. Awesome.
No, but 2006 couldn't have been.
Hold on. Marpet had something he's tried to say at least twice.
The next year is the 20th year. That's why they're closing it next year. So it would be 20 years prior. 2025 minus 20
19 or 23, depending on how you count COVID.
Okay, so 2005 was the first one. Was 2006 the one we went and sold Hack Naked t-shirts at?
I think so. That would have been the year after that.
It was 07.
Would have been the year when Core Security was there.
When RenderMan hacked it when I had the stupid sticker on my hat, or was that the same first year?
And the irony was, so one of my coworkers was at ShmooCon and Hackers on the Hill this weekend and got totally waylaid by flights because of snow, and finally got home today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, late yesterday.
You know, that's part of the draw of ShmooCon.
But we were talking about that, and the other coworker and myself were on with my boss, Matt Wickhouse, and he said, yeah, snow always screws up ShmooCon. And I said, wait a minute, were you at Shmoopocalypse? He's like, I totally was at Shmoopocalypse. I'm like, no. Like, yeah. He says, yeah, we ended up not being able to get flights out, and they rented a minivan and drove back to Cleveland. I'm like, what?
Everyone has their story.
Oh yeah. I was there when the ceiling collapsed for Shmoopocalypse, and was it the year before that we had the first Shmoopocalypse? I drove out of there in a 2-wheel drive 25-year-old Volvo.
I was reminding my wife of that story. Well, the night before we left, someone had a breathalyzer. I don't want to say what I blew in the breathalyzer.
You've said it before. Come on now.
All right, it was 0.27. Kids, don't drink that much. I was much younger then too. Yes, I couldn't do that now. I wouldn't recover.
And you were also not driving anywhere.
I was not driving anywhere.
You may not have also really been walking anywhere.
I had to go to my hotel room, which was just up the elevator. It was fine. I made it back to my room. In any case, the next day I canceled my flight and booked a train, probably before I started drinking because I successfully canceled my flight and booked a train. And then we walk out, Tim Green and I walk out, like, how are we going to the train station? This giant SUV. And I was like, can you get us to the train station? It's like, hell yeah, it's some exorbitant. He was like, it's $75. The train station was like, not that far. I'm like, whatever, let's split it, Tim, let's go. And he was driving all over the place through snow when we got to the train station. And the train in front of us and the train behind us got delayed, and somehow, miraculously, we made it home.
Yep.
Fond memories of ShmooCon. Anyway, where are we going? Were you talking about ShmooCon this year, Josh? Is that?
Yeah. ShmooCon this year. So next year is the final ShmooCon. Next year, Hackers for Charity is also going to sunset. So Hackers for Charity is shutting down as of next year.
Who did we hear that news from? Did it happen to be Johnny by chance?
No, Johnny is not associated with Hackers for Charity anymore.
Really?
He hasn't been for 3 or 4 years now. Sam Kinch is running Hackers for Charity.
Okay. Yep.
He's been handling the computer training center in Uganda, which is still going.
Wow.
And graduating like 36, I think it is. Sam, check me if I'm wrong, but still graduating like 36 people every quarter.
Wow.
With very nice computer skills, basic IT, a little bit of advanced IT, and they're getting jobs. So it's really wonderful. And because of what happened, and I'll explain that in a moment, that school now has enough funding for at least another year and a half.
Nice.
So it's really cool. The good news is that in the final auction, the Stargate, the Stargate, I hate that fucking Stargate. The Stargate went for $10,500 from Mubix and was matched by Ashley, who won it last year. So $21,000 was paid for the Stargate to be brought back to ShmooCon next year for hopefully a burning. Please God, let it be a burning and bonfire of that damn thing.
What is a Stargate? Like a Stargate from like Stargate SG-1?
Yeah. So
Oh wait, I've seen this before. Yeah. Now that you say that,
You saw it at my wedding.
yes.
It was the photo booth at my wedding. Yes, and so like I won it one year because frigging Blue Knight was like, send it to Quadling's wedding. Fuck you. So I had to drive this thing home. My wife was my girlfriend at the time was fiance was about to kill me. And but we drove it home and stored it. And
now you're married. Now you're married, and she really wants to kill you.
Well, I bid on the damn thing during the auction, and she's texted. She was at home with the kids. She's texting me, "Are you bidding on that?" I'm like, no, of course not. $2,000, and then Bubik's bastard goes $10,005, and I'm like, never mind, I'm not doing that.
I'm out.
And Mubix won it, but it was a really great ShmooCon. The talks were fantastic. It was interesting how the talks have changed over the years. And I'm going to speak on that for just a second, if that's okay. But in my opinion, there were a lot more talks about.
It's not okay.
Okay, fine. Fuck you. There were a lot more talks about policy, soft skills, things that were not hack of the day, exploit of the day, 0 day, whatever, that are still important for our industry. But I think it shows one of the reasons that ShmooCon is closing. I'm going to be submitting a talk for next year that basically, oh my God, I'm going to be submitting a talk for next year that is basically that the golden age of the generic HackerCon is over, because I think as an industry, we've grown up, matured, and specialized. Now, if you're an incident responder, you go to, I think it's called FIRST. And if you're I don't know, if you're a SOC analyst, you go over there, and, developer, you go to Source and things like that. And if you're a red teamer, you go to Hack RedCon and Wild West Hack and Fest and things like that. There's now a conference for every single sort of genre in InfoSec. And I think that's why, or that's one of the reasons that ShmooCon, among a lot of other conferences, Circle City Con is gone now. There's a lot of conferences that are toast. So,
yeah, but also there was someone who I worked for. It was a startup at the time. People were coming. People were leaving. People were getting fired. People were coming on board. And very wise words. When you run a company, people come, people go. I think conferences are the same thing. Conferences come, conferences go. Now, there's not one conference that's going to maybe be around forever. I mean, there might be a few exceptions to that, but certainly none of them. Everyone's on the table, right? And there's new conferences that come along. I think it's just a constant changing of the guard and adapting to the times, right? I think one of the biggest drivers for conferences coming and going in our industry is the motivation of people organizing them.
Yep.
Look, not everyone wants to run a conference, right?
Yeah.
And with DerbyCon no longer being a conference, and now ShmooCon, everyone's like, we should have an East Coast conference. And talking about that with some people, I'm like, I want to do it. I'm like, but I don't want to be the person who's organizing it. Mm-hmm. And people close to me are like, you know what? I don't want to be the person that's organizing for you either.
I think someone on that call said, running a conference is a young person's game, and neither you nor I are the young person.
It was also my wife that was like, I'm not doing that shit. Like, no way.
Nope.
I'm like, we can run a conference suite. She's like,
B-Side CC is actually revitalizing because of this. I'm on the board of B-Sides DC, so I was involved with this. Some young blood is joining, if all goes well. We had long talks while we were there. And you all are welcome to be there and be part of it.
Yeah, what can we do? What can we do? I mean, we can. I can't help you organize it, but like I can. I can.
Social media, marketing, get the word out. We would love that. Okay, would you like to handle that?
Let's talk offline.
That sounds good.
How about that?
We're also going to be starting a policy village. I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've heard good things about that, but you guys are nothing compared to SecKC. SecKC is where it's at. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, you guys got to come out and check SecKC.
No, we should be the new. And Bill, you guys do SecKC every month, correct?
Every single month. Yep. We're the longest running monthly security conference, and it's dope.
And for the record, the Discord server is also pretty damn lively and fun too.
Yeah, fun group. Sorry, Josh. I was just trying to interrupt.
No. I keep wanting to get out to SecKC. It's fucking amazing conference from what I hear.
I was literally trying to steal your plug and get my plug in there. That's what I was doing there. So sorry about that. I'll throw it back over to you.
I like it. I don't want to.
KC is awesome.
I don't want to belabor the point of conferences, but I like some of the different things that people are doing, and I look at it as a positive thing and an evolution. Right? I still think we need our set of yearly conferences where we hang out and stuff. Right? And there's a lot of conferences that do that, but I also like the new. We learned about one. Who was on with me? It's like the Zero Trust Conference. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound interesting. But the folks that are running is one of our new sponsors, Threat Locker. And he's like, no, this is totally cool. Like, you come, you hang out, and you hack. Like, we'll show you how to hack Bluetooth with a Flipper Zero, and we're going to show you how to use Metasploit. And there's a whole series of labs, and we're hosting this whole thing in Orlando. I'm like, dude, that sounds like something I want to go. Like, that's pretty awesome, right? Bill, you chimed in. We're like, well, we have a conference every month, right? Kind of similar to what we do with the podcast. Like, we're kind of like a mini conference every week, right? Which is kind of why we haven't run too many conferences on top of running all the shows every week, because it's kind of similar.
It's a lot of work, right? So like we quit throwing parties in Vegas just because of how much work it was, right? And you don't enjoy it. You, like, when you're the organizer, you don't get to enjoy it, right? Nope. Like, you are literally too busy to even say hello to your friends. Sometimes it's tough, and it takes a toll on you. And making it 20 years, and I think everybody would agree, ShmooCon has been great for 20 years, great. Right. That takes a toll, right? And they probably just, they're tired, right? Would be my guess. I don't, I don't know.
I mean, if you think about it, the part that amazes me is that when we first started going to ShmooCon, Bruce and Heidi didn't have children.
Yeah.
Or if they did, they had really small ones.
Their children no, they didn't have children at all.
And we watched.
They had Taryn. I think they had Taryn.
Yes, and we watched their children grow up and have now moved on and have their own lives and are married.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. That makes me feel old.
Like, Dax is the only one still at home. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. 2 out of 3 of them are married. The 13-year-old isn't. That's okay.
Yes. This is not Alabama.
There was 1 year. There was 1 year at ShmooCon. Trent and I.
Oh boy.
We decided that.
Hold on, time out. A story that starts with, there was this one time at ShmooCon, and then follows up with Trent and I. I gotta brace myself.
Yeah, it gets there, and I don't know if Bruce and Heidi know this story. So if they don't, that was us. Sorry, but so our plan was we were just going to bug the front desk until we either got kicked out or we found ourselves in.
I remember this year.
I remember this. And so we just kept going and going and going and going and just raising all kinds of hell. And they gave us a suite, and we opened up the door, and inside the room was a round bed at one round bed and like a bunch of bars. And so we went back down there and we were like, listen, I don't know what you think, but that's not going to work out. Like, you have to fix this. And the little kid behind the counter just, fine, here. They gave us another suite, and we get in there, and it's Bruce and Heidi's suite. They had given Bruce and Heidi's suite to us because we complained so much. And when you go into a hotel and you're throwing the thing, there's like bottles of wine and like a fruit basket and all that stuff. And that year we drank all that wine, and then we threw a party in Bruce and Heidi's suite that night.
I remember that party.
But I think Paul, I think we were with you guys, and we were late.
No. We were not with you. I just heard there was a party, and I visited a social calling, and then I disassociated myself. He was just in the neighborhood. That you got Bruce and Heidi's suite, by the way. Heidi, Bruce, if you're listening, it was all Bill's idea.
That's true.
Actually, it was Trent's idea. He's not here.
Yeah, that's right. It was Trent's idea. But we were like, okay, the party starts at 8 or whatever, and then we roll up at like 10, and there's like 400 people standing outside that suite.
News spread fast.
News spreads fast for sure. But, oh man, those were the good
Bruce
old
and
days.
Heidi were the first ones in line.
Me. Heidi, don't kill me. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know anything about it.
No,
Okay?
I'm sure Heidi and Bruce know about that. I mean, if they didn't before, they do now.
Yeah,
it's totally fine.
Well, I love them both. Like, I mean, they, you know, I've known that, you know, I haven't known them well. I don't know them well, but every interaction I have with either one of them, right, or them together, they're just good people, and I appreciate everything that they've done for the community.
Well, they know the shenanigans. So, like, I had taken a huge break from ShmooCon. This will be our closing note before we get to stories. But like, I took a big break from ShmooCon. I went back last year, and I was like, Heidi, like, I don't have a lot of responsibilities here. And I'm like, you know me from previous. She's like, you're not here with that those Bill and Trent characters. I'm like, oh. I'm like, I don't think they're here this year. I'm like, but like, I don't have any other response. I'm like, I'm not selling T-shirts. I'm not representing a vendor. I'm like, the only thing I have to do is speak. I'm like, I'm gonna, if there are shenanigans, just don't blame me. And she kind of just gives me that look like, if you do it, she doesn't say don't do it. She gives you the look like, if you do it, don't get anyone in trouble, especially me, Heidi Potter. Don't get me in trouble. If you get in trouble, you're on your own, right? Just don't get us in trouble as ShmooCon or the Potters, right? So she's always been good about stuff like that. Anyway,
all I can say is that if ShmooCon is the last year, and that it was such a formational conference for me and my career, and all the opportunities that they've offered us over the year, if I don't get tickets, I've got to do LobbyCon.
Yeah,
I'm the
same way.
No offense or buts.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be 30,000 people in LobbyCon this year or next year. That's going to be great, right? Like, that's going to be wonderful.
Just book your room now. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know when it is.
The dates.
Oh,
it's January 10th through 12th right now, but she's working on changing the dates.
Oh.
Don't book your hotel until she finalizes.
No,
so book a
year
hotel
in advance. You can cancel your reservation.
Yeah, book a hotel from January 1st to February 30th.
Well, the hotel is booked up. I heard that like literally 20 minutes after it's booked up already. And my thought is because it's an election year or inauguration year.
It's inaugural weekend is the
but the 10th is my birthday. We could commemorate ShmooCon and celebrate my birthday.
Dude, like, we can do that in February for crying out loud.
That's true.
Never mind.
Yeah, let's do February.
Your birthday is only a state of mind.
Last thing about Shmoo is that there's another reason I think they might be shutting it down is that Bruce's new startup was their Turngate. And so he basically has we visualize all your log data, not a SIEM. It's a visualization and not a correlation, but visualization and understanding of your log data. So it was interesting. It was actually a pretty good dashboard for an alpha product. They're alpha. They're not even out yet. So just FYI.
Hey, what do you say we talk about security news? What do you think? Where do you want to start?
In the time that's left, let's do that.
Yeah. Hey, how about
Bigpanzi, PixieFAIL, OpenWRT, Brick Christmas.
Brick Christmas
it is.
Just because I know we're out of the Christmas season, but you and I were looking at that quite a bit over the Christmas season about trying to be able to remote control the TikTok Christmas tree, which irony has been around for a couple of years even before that, and we never got it completed. But
the TikTok Christmas tree is really just an LED, Bluetooth and or RF enabled strand of lights that are
already in the Christmas tree.
Embedded into the Christmas tree, right? Like it's interesting because I spent some time looking into how to hack my Christmas tree. Christmas trees plural, but there's one in particular. And when you look at the FCC filings for the device, like there's no Christmas tree in the FCC filings. You could send your device. Correct me if I'm wrong, Larry.
Yep.
If you and I develop a microcontroller based LED light strip.
Yep.
And we want to control that over some RF radio frequency. We have to take a prototype of that or a version of that.
A version of that.
And we have to send it to the FCC for the certification process. During that certification process, they document a whole bunch of things, take a whole bunch of pictures of the device and put it up on the FCC website, which is why you can take the FCC device off of anything That doesn't. Well, this comes from China. That doesn't count. I mean, it might, maybe not.
As long as it transmits a signal.
It transmits a signal, and you've registered with the FCC. It'll be on the FCC website, and you can go look that up. And when I did that for the Christmas tree, there wasn't pictures of a Christmas tree.
Right. It was a string of LED lights.
It was a green plastic box was the outside. When you open that up, there's all the electronics and microcontrollers inside of it with the LED lights attached. I don't even think the LED lights were in the FCC pictures because they were certifying the radio frequency microcontroller portion of it. Like whatever's connected to that doesn't
whatever
emit.
They're controlling doesn't
whatever they're controlling doesn't matter as long as it doesn't emit radio frequency. So this was very interesting that when the researcher was interfacing with this,
they were like via Bluetooth Low Energy.
When the part that I read was the part where he bricked it. I kind of fast forwarded because I wanted to see how he bricked it. And he was like, well, if you like increase this value and you just keep increasing this value, I increased this value basically to 11, where 8 or 9 or 10 was the theoretical limit. Like it just turned off. And then it wouldn't turn back on.
Yep. So I ran this and watched 1 to 10. So far, so good. Then it ticked over to 11 and aha, I have found a secret mode. Then it ticked over to 12 and darkness.
Darkness.
I guess there are only 11 effects. That's fine. I'll reboot it and finish the rest of the code.
No.
And the lights never came back on after the reboot.
So he theorized, I think correctly, that it overflowed some kind of buffer that impacted the firmware, or if it is firmware, it could be just microcode running on there. He somehow impacted the microcode that was running on the controller and basically bricked it. So you have to reflash this.
But there's no way to reflash.
If you don't have so this is the things we've run into with UEFI, right? If you get updates are not everything you need to rebuild whatever flash or storage devices on the hardware that represents the firmware and or microcontroller code, in other words, right? Like an update is just here's the stuff that changed, right? Like, oh, you bricked your device. That means you need everything that's stored on the microcontroller or on the flash on a firmware-based system. Well, they may or may not give that to you or provide that to you, right? So you end up with a somewhat expensive paper. I don't know what it costs, but you end up with a paperweight, not something that makes flashy lights.
So now at the end part of that, I think this becomes fantastic, is that all is not lost. The LEDs themselves are standard addressable LEDs. So I can at least hook up the string that's built into the tree to a different microcontroller and use them. And this brings me back to, we saw a couple weeks ago, we saw the LED like curtains, the light curtains that were in Ukraine or in Russia that were hacked. You could effectively now turn your Christmas tree into one of these LED curtains, and now your modes of programming and doing them are infinite. And you could turn your Christmas tree into a scrolling billboard if you really wanted to.
As long as I don't have to solder the little LEDs onto whatever they're being attached to.
Just one set of the attachment, not every LED.
If they're all already connected, I'm good. It's when I have to surface mount. I have some kits where I had to surface mount the LED to the board.
Practice.
So Larry, I saw this article, and it reminded me of a project that I've been working on that you guys have to check out. Everybody check this out. So there is a guy, his name's Dave, and Dave was the Microsoft programmer that wrote the Task Manager back in the day. And now he's writing LED software for ESP32s. And he just released this code called Night Driver. And I put it in the show notes. Big shout to Sammy for showing me how to do that. But you guys have to check out this product. This guy running on a $1 ESP32 has integrated all of this timing and syncing and mesh networking across devices. You could do an entire, oops, sorry about that. You can see if I can focus. You can do your entire house, like your Christmas lights of your entire house running off of ESP32s. It is absolutely insane, and you've got to check out this code. So and so easy to install and so easy to use. He's getting ready to release a new product called the Mesmerizer, which is basically it's the ESP on steroids. So essentially, it'll be able to do things like the Las Vegas Sphere, and it's all free, open source. If you have any, like if you've been doing any kind of coding with like WLED or anything like that, you've got to check out Night Driver. I've put it in the show notes, but I saw that and that reminded me of this. You guys got to check it out. It's super cool.
Nice.
And then Paul, you can hand solder your SMD, LED and get it all working.
Oh God, no!
But I mean,
God, I just don't have the patience, dude. You know what I mean?
This code running on an ESP32 would fix your Christmas tree right away, right? So with that, it is so well written and so well thought out. It's something that if you guys are interested in that, you've got to check it out. The project's incredible.
Oh, how do we follow that up? I just have, because it's like not really serious.
If we're a little bit on the hardware side, what about Sam's story number 3? Electric car owners confront a harsh foe.
Yeah,
cold weather.
And we haven't heard from Sam. Sam, hey man.
Yeah. Well, that was. I saw a lot of articles about this. Apparently, when Teslas get cold, you can't charge them.
Okay, but hold on, Sam. Yeah. I want you to define cold. Because I own a Tesla, I live here in Rhode Island, and recently I was fine. And it was this morning, the low temp. When I started, I went on my app. So just for reference, I went on my app this morning because everyone was getting ready to leave the house this morning. It was 17 degrees, and I went on my app and I defrosted my Tesla, and I drove it to take my son to school, drove it here in the studio, and it's been fine all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Tesla says as long as you keep the battery at least 20%, it will automatically heat the battery to keep it working.
This is the piece of information I was missing because I very rarely, because I have a charger in my home, because I'm like, look, if I'm going to have an electric vehicle, like I don't live in the best climate for this, right? And so I'm like, I'm going to have a charger at home, and very rarely does it get below 20%. Carry on.
Right, and that's the point. But apparently people do have them that go below 20%, and now there were like hour-long lines waiting to get to the chargers, and dead Teslas abandoned all over the place in Chicago and everywhere else during this cold snap. So this is just Chicago. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, but here's my advice based on exactly what you just said, Sam, and based on also physics, and now knowing a less than 20% rule, which I actually didn't know. I'm like, when you're evaluating getting an electronic vehicle, I'm going to leave aside the morons that go on social media like Facebook and comment on electronic vehicles. Like, there's no need to hate people that own electronic vehicles. Like, I don't know what happened to you as a child where you feel the need to ridicule people who own electric vehicles. Like, I feel sorry for you. Like, I really do. And I read your I'm just going to let you know that I'm out there, I'm reading your comments, and I'm laughing about how retarded you are. Okay? Now, put that for the side.
And I'll also add to that, after spending last week at CES, there was a ton of vehicle stuff, technology, and every single bit of it between charging and the vehicles and displays and technology was focused around an EV.
Sure.
It's here to stay.
It's here to stay, right? Which is another thing. But hold on, like where we stand today, let's on future aside, where we stand today, take into consideration a lot of factors. If one, you're going to only drive an electronic vehicle. If you're only driving an EV, you need to make some concessions like with your life, right? The other thing is very important, especially if number one is true and you're only going to own an EV. If you can't charge that vehicle at your home or your dwelling, like you're starting to set yourself up for huge failure. And there's a couple of other things that I've seen out there where I think you're setting yourself up for failure, right? One, if you live in a swamp like Florida. I mean, Florida's like literally below sea level. Like, you got to make some concessions that if there's a hurricane and it floods, your EV is going to set fire, right? Like, don't park your EV in a swamp is one thing. Also, in this extreme cold, you got to prepare for that. So if it's your only vehicle and you can't charge it in your dwelling, and it's going to be negative 27 degrees like it was in the Chiefs Miami game, right? The Chiefs Dolphins game. Like you could have some issues there, right? You could plan for this. Maybe have a gas vehicle.
I think Sam buried the lead though, right? So like there was a quote in this article that said it's kind of like, I don't really want a Tesla, and I love it. I think that's great. What a perfect quote. I got your back, Sam.
But
so here's the thing.
Based on my experience at CES, there is a lot of competitors to Tesla now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Tesla's not the only electronic. Every automobile manufacturer has some form of electronic vehicle.
And there are electronic vehicle manufacturers out there that I guarantee you've never heard of.
Right. Well, and then there's Rivian, which you should never buy based on what I've read recently about Rivian. They're just a terrible company, but I don't know how their vehicles, but like the repair costs and everything like is terrible on the Rivian. But again, let's practice some common sense. And also, like, why do you hate on EV drive? I don't understand.
I'll tell you why. I can explain it. So I agree. I think the EVs are here to stay. And quite honestly, I'll tell you, like, I am a car guy, and I'm looking at them too. But here's the problem, and it boils down to this: EVs. They don't have any soul. There's no soul. It feels like
Bill,
I'm driving.
Get over yourself.
I'm driving an
over
iPhone.
yourself.
Is what it feels like.
Get over yourself and your soul. All right, I'll give you your soul. But you're relating your soul to something that gets you from point A to point B. What do you care what it's powered by? It could be powered by nuclear power. Batteries, gas, diesel. You could be Flintstones and stick your feet out from underneath it. It doesn't matter. Got a soul. It's still getting you from point A to point B. You want a soul? Go get a hobby. Go play pickleball. Go play pickleball or do some relief work in Uganda. I don't know.
Man, look out! Man, ow! There's a nerve there, and we just touched it. But I'm just saying, like what you're describing is, the defense. I get it. If a car is just a way from A to B, then cool. Do you, man.
But I think, Bill, I mean, in all honesty, like I feel like people look too much into it because I am a car guy. Like I've had the Tinker car. Like I had a Mini Cooper. It was a 6-speed that I did all the upgrades to, and I modified. Soul, man. I put the aftermarket exhaust, right? Like it sounded great. I had to actually drive it, right? Like I had to shift it into gear and all that stuff. And then as time went on, and I got older, I was like, wow. I spend a lot of my time in drive-thrus and dropping off my kids at school. And having a 6-speed that has an aftermarket performance clutch in it with all the upgrades is a really terrible experience. This is awful.
Well, that shit can't be your daily driver, dumbass.
No, and then I was like, you know what? I'm getting rid of this thing. But then I think a lot of the people that poo-poo the electronic vehicles often have not driven them for any extended period of time. Because again, I am a car guy, and I had not had an electronic vehicle, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want one, but I rented one. One of the things I realized, I'm like, number one, this is the fastest car I've ever driven in my life. Like, holy crap, this is awesome. I'm like, secondly, when you're in traffic, when you let your foot off the accelerator, it slows down. So I don't have to press the brake like I do in a gas car, which means when I'm in traffic or a drive-through, it's like a totally different experience. I'm like, traffic is not as horrible as it used to be in an electronic vehicle. Also, it appeals to my inner nerd. I'm like, this is a computer with wheels. And my kids giggle when I do ridiculous things like, the funniest conversation that we had as a family recently, at least to me, is when we asked my wife if she had noticed anything different about the Tesla when she parked it at her work, and when she locked it and it made fart sounds to indicate that it was locked. And she's like, oh yeah, thanks for telling me about that. I was super embarrassed because I locked it and it started making fart sounds, and me and the kids were dying hysterical. So now
next week you replaced them with even louder fart sounds.
Oh yeah, it's so great. It's great. Anyway,
moving along.
I don't know. I think Bill and I are going to agree to disagree on the whole soul.
No,
thing.
So in my opinion, I know you're trying to move on, but you're telling me that a Toyota Camry and a Porsche 918 Spyder are the same thing.
Nope.
No, that's not what I was saying. I'm just saying, like, don't hate on people that drive electronic vehicles. That's all I was saying.
Don't tell me how to live my life, man. Don't tell me how to live my life.
Children, Christ, back up, okay? Neutral corners. Fuck. We fall down the weirdest rabbit holes here. God damn.
Sure.
Welcome to the show, Josh. Come on now.
How about those flipper zeros, man? Like let's talk about some of those flipper zeros. So Paul,
what about the flipper zero? Now you're gonna hate on the flipper. No, I'm just kidding.
No, man, no. But so like I was really excited because
I mean, you could drive to work on a flipper zero, or you could drive to work on a Hacker F1. Like, which one is going to give you more of a soul bill? What?
Shut up.
Okay.
Bill, go ahead.
So I was really excited for you to go to ShmooCon because I thought you were going to do that wall of flippers, right? So like I saw that back in your list here again. I want to hear what you want to talk about it.
So the wall of flippers is because here was my thing about my evolution with the flipper zero and the Bluetooth low energy spam, which isn't specific to the flipper, right? Because Larry and I think, have amassed half a dozen-ish, maybe more definitely more between us. They can pull off the Bluetooth low energy spam attack, right? But like we kind of feel like that's been exhausted. And then the things that got me thinking about it, and it's actually one of the reasons why I pulled out this jammer that I got from China a long time ago, was the unintended consequences of doing these type of attacks. So Bluetooth low energy spam. And what I was realizing, what Larry communicated to me, is Larry's one of these folks that if you're monitoring your insulin, it's communicating over Bluetooth low energy. If you have a hearing aid, it's communicating over Bluetooth low energy. There was some other
blood glucose, insulin monitoring. The one that happened at the furry convention was point of sale systems.
Yes, thank you. Point of sale systems. So there's all these unintended consequences. So I'm like, here we go to a hacker convention where most of the population of this hacker convention knows that at ShmooCon, sure, someone can launch a Bluetooth low energy. Like, I'm not the coolest, leadest person because I can do this at a hacker conference. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, what am I going to do about it? I'm like, then I came across this thing about the wall of flippers, which is essentially Bluetooth monitoring software to detect this attack. I'm like, so I'm going to go to ShmooCon with this. I'm going to detect this attack kind of thing. I want to see who's running it based on their Bluetooth identifier. But then my other concern was, if I'm monitoring the space and I'm taking in basically unstructured data from Bluetooth low energy, someone could pull me like, this is an arms race, right?
This was the whole thing that we used to see back in the day, and we probably will still see with Wireshark protocol dissectors.
Yes,
that all of a sudden there was a vulnerability in Wireshark protocol dissector, and that you sniff some packets and your Wireshark instance falls over or has remote code execution, and it would also happen on previously captured packet captures. So So one thing to note, I'm going to go back to last week I was at CES, and I have a continuous glucose monitor. And when I got out into the main areas of the show floor, especially into Central Hall, there was so much technology being displayed in those halls, and so many people with Bluetooth low energy that the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum was so saturated, my continuous glucose monitor ceased to function.
Interesting.
On multiple occasions for multiple hours when I was in those locations.
Well, I mean, it's a limited, like anything else in RF, it's a limited spectrum. So there's only so much bandwidth.
Bluetooth low energy spamming aside, like there was so much traffic for Bluetooth low energy just in general. I fired up some Bluetooth low energy monitoring tools on my phone, and there were, in one area, there were more than 2,000 devices that I could observe at any given time. Wow. So like no spamming needed for some of this stuff. It was just a natural consequence.
That's just jamming. I mean, that's just
jamming. Yeah,
that's just use.
Good God. Okay. So is there a health and safety issue there? You said your glucose monitor didn't work at all?
No, I would agree with your health and safety issue. I would also, it's a safety issue with people's phones as well, because there's nothing that meters or mitigates this attack currently.
Correct.
And if you can just continually knock someone's phone offline, now you're knocking off their ability to dial 911, to contact emergency services, to make phone calls. Like, to me, that's a health and safety issue for certain, right? Like, there's it's an issue that has to be. I don't know how you address it though. That's the problem, right? Like me, I act more responsibly, right? Because I'm like, okay, we've proven we could do this attack, right? The problem with the attack today is that you can't target it. Can you target it towards a specific device?
Sure.
I mean,
you technically could.
But the way that it works is you're sending out an advertisement that is not targeted towards a specific device.
You could modify the code to have it target a specific device. But
that's where I want to see this code, the next generation, go. I was thinking about it this week. It's funny you say that.
Now I'm saying that.
But like, I don't know if it's possible, right? Like, I want to see a list of like, who do you want to target?
Now you are saying that.
But this is a Bluetooth Low Energy advertisement.
So technically,
is it going to like a multicast or broadcast?
It's technically going to broadcast address. I bet you could, and I don't know if it would violate the spec or not.
Yeah.
So one question I have about this article is the article says wall flippers is the new way to put a stop to Flipper Zero. The wall flippers can block Bluetooth spam attacks from Flipper Zero. How does it block it?
I'm not sure how it blocks it. I've not seen a blocking of it. I've seen it. So I ran this and then I executed
it's a detection.
It's a detection. Yeah. It's just like, hey, this Bluetooth ID or with the Bluetooth MAC address,
BD adder,
BD adder, is the one that is the source of this attack.
Right. Which is tied to a specific OUI, which is tied to those for the flippers.
Just like your Ethernet.
Or organizational unit identifier. Right. The first half of the BD adder is controlled by the manufacturer. The second half is random.
So I also kind of somewhat disagree that like you could pinpoint who it was, right? Like, what are you going to do? Go up and ask people like, hey, what's your Bluetooth BD adder? Yeah, kind of dicey.
But the way this can block it. What it can do is it displays the MAC address of the device that's attacking you, and then you can go block that. That's what they say.
How do you block that in Bluetooth though? Is there like a layer 2 firewall in Bluetooth? It would be like a equivalent of you would need to, but you would need to tell your Bluetooth stack ignore all traffic from this specific hardware address of this Bluetooth device.
Right. And then in the case of,
I mean, that's not impossible.
And then in case of the spam, and then in case in the spamming stuff, like this is the old problem we used to have with denial of service and distributed denial of service attacks on like the university. Like by the time it gets to you and your firewall is rejecting it, it's too late.
Too late.
Right. Because it's already consumed all of the bandwidth to your device. So
we need Bluetooth firewalls on our phones.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Bluetooth firewall.
There's our startup, Bill. God. There's our new startup.
Yep.
Bluetooth firewalls on mobile Bluetooth firewalls.
It's too late. It's too late by then. I mean, arguably you should because you don't want malicious traffic. But if someone's doing the flooding,
jamming,
but it's
preemptive jamming. Jam
that thing in front of you, Paul, might come in handy too.
What was that, Jeff?
That thing that he charged up and caused problems, that could help out too.
Yeah, totally.
Just got to tune it.
Totally. Just, you know what will solve all of this problem? A nuclear warhead detonated 30 miles over every country and an EMP attack, and then none of these things will work and we'll be fine.
Well, he's done it, folks.
Bluetooth, we should have.
I literally went for the nuclear option, right?
You've solved the problem, Larry.
Caused a few others, but hey, what the hell? No, pick another color and another body part instead of Bluetooth. Make it like brown boot or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I could pick too many body parts and too many colors that would not go well together.
Well, they might go very well together, but they're not really good to share on the show. I mean, we just need another piece of spectrum, right? That's all. No big deal.
No.
Don, you want to be the guy to bring.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Bill?
I was going to say, Paul, I also saw that you linked that MagSpoof has been ported over to Flipper since we're staying on Flippers there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Dude, yeah. So, but this was MagSpoof was what was that? Who did the original stuff?
Sammy. It was Sammy
Camcar. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say Travis Goodspeed, but in this respect, they're both similar in that they like dream up these like really awesome things and they execute on them, right? And I have a Rabbit Labs mag spoof device that you can read magnetic stripes, but that just gets you the card data, right? I have it for the flipper. So the Rabbit Labs guys, I forget his name. His first name's like Ryan or something. He's really awesome. Like if you're going to order stuff for your Flipper Zero, you want to order it from Rabbit Labs on Tindy. He's based out in New Jersey. The dude is amazing. I've talked to him on the show before, but he makes one of these mag stripe. And unfortunately, I didn't bring one to the studio today because my Flipper add-ons are in. I have to store them in like this tackle box, like a plastic tackle box thing that doesn't easily like fit in my bag. So I didn't take it with me. But I have one of these. You can read the mag stripe data from credit cards.
You can read it from the card, and can you replay it to a mag stripe reader?
I think you can also replay. I think his devices. I just haven't spent enough time. I bought his because Rabbit Labs is so awesome. And they're not that expensive. I bought like every single thing that he made for the flipper. So this which are like in total cost me like maybe $100 and change dollars. That got me like all this like really awesomely engineered gear. And this was one of them. And I brought it here to the studio once. I don't know if you were here. Yeah. Larry. I mean, you might have been here when I just messed with it for a little while. So the question, next week I'll bring it back and we'll mess with it some more. The question really becomes here is that if you can steal someone's credit card mag stripe stuff with this device. But it's a track data.
But yeah, it's track data, but back in the day, you could use track data to do fraudulent transactions.
I defer to Jeff on this. I feel like Jeff is the...
But and Jeff, still can. How if you often, can get it. Yeah, how often are merchants or credit card companies actually still using track data? And I ask this because I just parked in our local parking garage at the airport, and I have one card that works everywhere, except when I use the mag stripe. And every time I use the mag stripe and mag stripe only, it fails, like almost like the credit card provider said, hey, you did this via mag stripe. We're not accepting this. It's either got to be chip and pin, or tap to pay.
Right. So
I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, the data that's on the track is essentially the same data that's in the chip.
Right.
Except for the dynamic. Except for the CVV
often,
versus the CVC.
Well, they call it something different, but there's still the equivalent. And I don't know whether the generic term is sensitive authentication data is the same on the mag stripe as it is in the chip. I kind of think it is.
It should. Well, I don't know about the chip, but I know on the tap to pay, that 3-digit code, the CVV on the back, is not the same. It uses a dynamic CVC.
Well, even on the track on the mag stripe, it's not the same as what's printed on the card.
Right.
CVV
those two are different.
CVV 2. Yep.
Versus CVC.
The one in the data in the chip, the data is, I believe, the same. However, it's encrypted, so it's presented differently.
We need an expert for this.
Yeah, but no, the number's not encrypted because I can with the flipper I can NFC read
the numbers are not encrypted.
I can read the card number from the chip, but I don't get the. Do I not get the CVV number? Is that what I don't get when I do that?
So having done the tap to pay stuff, the number that's on the cards, either CVV1 or CVV2, is not the same via NFC, via the tap to pay. That should be dynamic, tied to a transaction counter, a numeric transaction counter. So it's not the same per transaction.
I didn't get this far when I wasn't at ShmooCon. This is one of the things I was working with. Was I have one of those USB I forget the model number. It's white and it's NFC. It does some RFID stuff as well.
Oh, it's the ACR122U.
Thank you. What was it? The
ACR122U.
ACR122U. I connected to my Linux laptop
using the PN32
chipset,
PN32, which has been deprecated and is now being replaced by the PN42. Ask me how I know this.
And there's also like LibUSB. Yeah, I couldn't get any of that. What is it? NFC-tools.
Yeah, NFC touch tools, and there's another.
And there's another lib NFC.
Lib NFC. Yep.
I couldn't get any of that stuff working, and I'd spend a limited amount of time with them. Like, I need to come. Well, that's when I started putting Kali on my Raspberry Pi to put the tool set on there. But I don't think that they ported that tool set to ARM, which is why I'm kind of like, talk
to me later.
Yeah, I just need to break. I have a Kali laptop that's x86 based. I should probably just use that. Yeah. But anyway, I was trying to read credit. So my point was, I was trying to read credit card like I do with the flipper. I can read some credit card numbers from the chip using NFC on the flipper, and I'm like, I want to be able to do it with my, what is the USB thing I have? What did you say it was?
ACR122U.
ACR122U.
Yep. Talk to me.
And
later.
I couldn't replicate that, but I just didn't spend enough time to make it work.
Talk to me later.
Okay, thank you,
Jeff. You had a comment there.
Well, I was just going to say, to answer your question about the magstripe data, the car brands are moving towards removing the magstripe altogether.
Yeah,
and just having the chip and the NFC, and the NFC's working with the data that's in the chip.
Yeah.
I kind of cringe if I have to swipe with the magstripe. I kind of cringe.
Yep.
I feel like I only have to do that.
Wait until you pay for parking at TF Green.
But I feel like I only have to do that. You're right. Parking at TF Green, you have to do that. Also, returns. They're like swipe your max. You have to, because I'm assuming when they say swipe it, they're only reading the number.
Could be.
They don't need any of the other data. They're just like, hey, swipe it so I can get your card number.
They can read that.
They swipe all of it.
Interesting.
Because there's not that much data there. Yeah, it's funny you say that about the parking, Larry, because I have a client that's a municipality that their parking meters are only mag stripe readers, and I think it was MasterCard approached them and said, hey, we're getting to roll over and to new cards where the mag stripe's going to be eliminated, so you've got to upgrade to a chip reading device at the very least. And for an entire city municipality that's got how many hundreds or thousands of parking meters, that's no small endeavor.
Right.
So they've been begging for mercy and extensions. I've been working with them for 3 years now, and they've known about this for 3 years. They're still not there yet.
Oh God!
Yeah. Hey, Paul,
what's a great segue?
I've got another great segue. I've got a segue because if we're keeping it on the flipper one, I put this story specifically in for Bill.
I saw it.
Yeah, it is. Crap. What my story number?
3.
Yes. Hackers uncovered how to turn traffic lights green with the flipper zero. And someone sent this to me, and I was like, I kind of expected this to happen because it's doing MERT stuff, and Bill is our MERT expert.
I know, but Bill, this is old. I'm not sure if you saw it in the beginning of the year, because my assessment of this is like the flipper zero was just like a hacking device that they needed in the mix. It's not the main thing that they're using, because ultimately what I saw them leaning on and being able to do from a technology standpoint is read infrared signals, read and transmit infrared signals to turn the lights green. Is that correct?
So not really. So you don't need to read anything. So basically,
just transmit infrared.
Yeah, there's something called a preemptive trigger, and we've all seen them on top of the stoplights. It just looks like a little infrared receiver.
Yeah.
And back in the day, if you were to send a 14 megahertz pulse of IR, I thought
it was a 14 hertz pulse.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Larry. That is an important catch. Yeah, you're very
That's
right.
off by orders of magnitude.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. But 14 hertz. So 14 times per second pulse of light of that infrared light.
Oh, I see. So I'm sorry, Bill. The hertz is a measurement of the frequency at which you need to send the pulse of infrared light to the receiver.
14 times per second, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Would trigger the light to green. And so I've seen this project, and I'm happy that it lives on. This was something that I've done and kind of exposed to the world. I think 2005 is when I did that. And I just got to tell you, so it doesn't always work here. It certainly does still work, but it is a very they will track you down. I would not suggest that anybody do this, but essentially what they're using.
But what you're saying is that emergency vehicles for the better part of 20 years have been able to emit this infrared signal at a certain frequency to be able to turn the light green for emergency vehicles. If you do this as an individual out and you're not an emergency vehicle, you could suffer some negative consequences.
Yeah, it's funny and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. Both of those things, it's funny and fun, but there are very stiff fines and jail time associated with it. Basically, what this guy is doing is he's only using the flipper for timing, right? So wrote a very simple script to pulse it at that 14 hertz, and then you have to have some way of one powering the infrared LEDs, right, in a way that's fast enough. Because it's not difficult. I don't want to say that it's difficult, but it's not as easy as you think to provide that much power at that frequency rate, right? So what he did was essentially build out a little bit of circuit board that handled that the timing was handled by the flipper and the power was supplied by another board.
And the best part is the article.
I've seen this before. Yeah,
the article. Is references like, this is not new. See the Dirty Mert, which references ihacked.com's archive.org article written by some guy named Heaven.
So he kind of he expanded on your research, dude.
Yeah, good, man. I love it.
I love
good.
It. Yeah.
And some of the guys' motivation for this one was like, we can buy a $150 device and some batteries and some LED, some infrared LED panels when MERT charges like $5,000 for one of these things to put into your emergency vehicles. And there are some counties in various places that they can't afford $5,000 to have MERT enabled.
Man, I got to tell you, there were days, were there days where all you see is green lights and like, whoo, that is fun.
Yeah. But I've also, since then I've seen emergency vehicles like go through a whole bunch of green lights, and I'm like, they definitely have that tech equipped in their vehicles, right? Like I notice it in the wild.
Yeah, and so I don't exactly know what the new solution that they have, but this does not work. It's kind of like red boxing when red boxing started.
Okay. So what you were saying is that they have a newer technology. But also I want to underscore, like, if any one of us or anyone listening, like, if you're in an emergency vehicle and you're hurt up and you need to get to the hospital, like, this is helping save your life, right? Like, that's the intention.
What's really funny is, like, we probably all saw it, right? Like our dads back in the day they'd flicker the lights, right? Like when you're sitting at a stoplight and you flick the lights, and it seemed like that would change the light to green. It actually was. You were hitting the preemptive trigger, and you just happened to hit that magic sweet spot of 14 hertz. So
like the other ones that I used to see when people on motorcycles would pull up to stoplights that had the inductive plates underneath the stoplights.
Yes.
And you would see the magnetic resonance of the motor spinning over and
there was
doing the charging.
Some TV show with a guy on a motorcycle that did the thing.
They pull out a cane with a big magnet on it. And you put that down, it would trigger the light to say, hey, there's actually somebody here that doesn't have a motor large enough to trigger the inductive stuff.
I don't want to go talking about hardware hacking. Bamboo Labs, because you have a Bamboo Labs 3D printer, so does Dave Johnson, who was here last week. They allow what they call a one-way ticket to installing third-party firmware. Have you seen this?
On the X1 3D printers.
Yeah.
I saw something about the ability to allow hacks for open source. I didn't focus on it enough, but it's interesting now that it's a one-way ticket.
So the article says a switch to the X1 Plus, which is the open source firmware.
Yep. Okay.
Would involve some sacrifices that will permanently revoke the official warranty.
Okay.
And there's no guarantee of being able to use the cloud service or revert to official firmware. I love Bamboo as a company. You and Dave are super happy with them.
Yep.
When I go buy a 3D printer, which is hopefully sometime this year, it's going to be a Bamboo. And that decision, this has not changed that decision. And I'm not picking on Bamboo. In fact, I want to just let's wipe that company out. From this,
regardless of company.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the practice.
I get both sides, but here's the practice. I hate that if a company says, if you do XYZ, it voids your warranty in certain circumstances. in this circumstance, you're making a friggin' 3D printer, right? Which is like it's for hackers and makers and builders. It's for people that like to tinker.
Agreed.
If I'm making a 3D printer, I understand I have a business to run, but I also want to support my philosophy differs from Bamboo in this case, right?
I'm gonna use a little bit of an analogy.
You can disagree with me, but look, if I'm making a 3D printer and I'm the CEO and founder of a 3D printer company, and I go like, look, if you buy my 3D printer, I'm not going to invalidate your warranty. I'm not saying I'm going to replace every 3D printer that's out there. I'm saying I'm going to work with you. Like if you fucked up your 3D printer beyond repair and it's clearly your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not going to send you a brand new one, but like maybe we split that 50-50. What I'm saying is I'm going to support the hackers, makers, tinkerers that are like, hey, I put a third-party firmware in my printer and like it's not working right. I'm still going to honor your warranty. So like that's the 3D printer company
you'd have to honor the warranty in certain areas.
Right.
So I think about
this. I'm saying be a little more lenient because my point is this: your audience is folks that like to hack and tinker, and I don't want to penalize my paying customers for hacking and tinkering.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, let's draw another analogy. Let's say Bill goes down to the local Toyota dealership and he buys a brand new Camry.
Okay, well, hold on. I'm definitely not supporting Bill.
No. Wait,
because I know Bill's gonna fuck my shit up. All right.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of the point. And he brings it home. It's brand new Camry, and he pulls it in his garage and he LS swaps it. Do you think Toyota's going to allow Bill to bring that back when the rear diff that he's put in doesn't work anymore? I know it's a front-wheel drive car, because he put this overpowered engine in it and he did this thing that it shouldn't have done in the past because he swapped something that isn't officially supported.
But I wouldn't prevent Bill from putting the original firmware back on the car or the printer.
Bingo. Right. But now that also said if Bill LS swapped it and he took it off the line and it pushed him back in the front seat so far that it actually broke the front seat, that maybe they should replace the front seat. But they're not going to touch the engine anymore. They're not going to touch the brakes. They're not going to touch the transmission. But the seat broke. Genuinely, the seat broke because he pushed against it back too far. They should replace the seat, or they should offer to repair the seat at a significantly reduced cost.
I agree with what you just said, Larry. Is I think what where we agree, where we agree 100% is that hey, you don't want to alienate and piss off your audience, but you also don't you're running a business. You don't want to give all your shit away for free.
In the Bamboo printer, great. You're not going to touch the firmware, but this mechanical part that wasn't affected by software actually failed. Like one of the rails snapped because the metal was made like crap, or a piece of plastic that was there broke.
Yeah, no, we are in a complete agreement, Larry. I agree. Yeah. Yep, that's where I was going. Exactly.
And then turn it around and make it a health insurance comparison, not a car comparison. In health insurance or cyber insurance, ooh, now we're making it like real here. In cyber insurance, if you fuck up the slightest little bit, nope, sorry, insurance is no longer valid. Doesn't matter. You didn't tell us what you were doing ahead of time, even though you didn't know you had to. Doesn't matter. It's no longer valid. Health insurance, you did something off label. Sorry, your health insurance is invalid for anything resulting from that.
No, I like what Josh, because I think what Josh, what you're saying is that I'm picking on Bill. I'm not really picking on Bill, but we're using Bill as an example. If Bill goes, I swapped out firmware on there and the machine's messed up, I'm not going to go, well, you're responsible 100%. I'm not responsible 100% as the manufacturer, but you did upgrade the firmware. So let's meet halfway. You're responsible for 50%, and I'll meet you halfway, and I'll be responsible for 50% because I want you to use my product, right? That's kind of what I hear Josh and both Larry saying, right?
I'm hoping this is an evolution.
I want to see exactly, Larry, an evolution to the voiding of the warranty. You as a user, you hack something, so therefore me as the manufacturer, screw you, person who supported me and bought my product, you're completely on your own. I don't care about you. You need to go buy a whole new version of you know what
they should do. They should take a bite out of the Linksys stuff that they did.
Make a version
that's open source, and they charge a small premium for it.
I love that. I love that so much.
The difference I think the difference, though, when you're talking about a bamboo printer is you're talking about a device that actually has physical moving parts versus the Linksys,
No,
right? So if you put a firmware on there that runs the stepper motor too fast, too hard, too far, whatever, and you break something, whether Larry it's that rail or the stepper motor, like
you crash the head into the build plate and now replace my nozzle on the build plate. No.
And I also think that the bamboos are maybe a little bit more aimed at as a consumer, like the normal consumer than if you were to be talking about.
Yeah, but the problem is the tinkerers buy them because they're awesome.
Yeah,
right.
And
again, I like Bamboo as a company.
Mm-hmm.
Larry and Dave are really into 3D printing, and they're super happy with them. So, like, if I were to go buy one, I'd still go buy a Bamboo printer. I just think in general, like, companies need to be nice to people that may void the warranty. Right? I'm not saying everyone that voids the warranty, you need to send them a brand new product. That's not what I'm advocating for, right? There needs to be some middle ground to not be so stringent about, you voided the warranty.
So speaking of segues, one, can you pass me the bullet? Two, we mentioned Linksys routers and so forth. Did you see this story? OpenWRT is 20 years old this year.
Which makes me feel old, but also...
The Linksys WRT 54G has not been supported by OpenWRT in a decade.
Wow. Wait, whoa, hold on. Say that again.
God. Seriously?
Seriously? Early versions, OpenWRT, the reason it's called OpenWRT is because it was an open source firmware that supported the WRT 54G original routers. Now, Linksys, I want to say before they were bought by Cisco, pre-Cisco, made the WRT54GL.
Which was L for Linux.
They supported Linux. They were like, going back to the previous thing about Bamboo, right? Like, you want to tinker? Here's a version that you can tinker with.
And you pay a premium for it.
And it was a little more expensive, which is totally fine.
Instead of $100, it was $125.
But what that gets you is a little more freedom, which I'm a big fan of. Freedom is great, right?
And speaking of freedom, in this story, specifically my story number 8, this year they're going to be developing their own reference hardware based around a custom spin of the Banana Pi.
Which I think is great.
With all open source components, meaning no binary blobs for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all of this type of stuff.
Which in 2024 is totally achievable, and I applaud. I love it's a little more work to maybe maintain them and get them going, right, and maintain compatibility. But if you can get a fully open source thing that all the drivers, all the BIOS and low-level firmware is open. That's great.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I think this will start to or do some additional revolution to the consumer IoT market with that reference hardware that is based all on open source. That it will either further enable companies to use that reference hardware to build their own IoT devices with free and open source software for the entirety.
Hell yeah.
We see OpenWRT on so many IoT devices already and or other white boxed Linux distributions that this is going to even make it better.
This might might be a controversial statement, but in my assessment, and I've followed this very, very closely over the past 20 years.
You and me both.
In embedded in IoT spaces, if you're producing a purpose-built device for the purposes of providing a Wi-Fi access point, what in there is so proprietary that you can't use an open hardware and open software reference point? I think if you did that, you would be more successful than the companies that are trying to protect some sort of intellectual property. Now, where I see intellectual property is things that are more special purpose, right? They're doing something that's providing an amazing technological feat for some special purpose or whatever.
I would argue that maybe even some of the new the Wi-Fi standards like Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, 802.11h, any of those drivers, but they're having to develop those drivers for Linux anyways.
But even still, if you're a Wi-Fi access point, you're freaking Wi-Fi access point. Like, it could be a selling point is that we're completely open and interoperable, and you can go build and tinker on your own.
Yep.
Like, I see that as a positive more so than a negative.
And also that it's open and available, that you and I could build an IoT thing on this open reference platform using free software.
But I see what I think we need to get the consumer market around is that because it's open, it could be supported for much longer. Agreed. In other words, it's not going to be end of life, end of support, because the community is going to keep it open for a certain extended period of time. Is what I've seen with open source. Now, even that comes to an end, and none of our technology is supposed to be around forever. Like, you're gonna have to replace it, but it should be around for longer.
The other one this story made me realize is that I probably need to take all of my WRT 54Gs out of the basement, hold on to one of them for sentimental purposes, and take the rest of them to the electronics recycler, because OpenWRT hasn't supported these things in a decade.
Also, as I look at upgrading I'm going to look at upgrading my Wi-Fi very soon. And where I'm going is Ubiquity. I want the what is the gateway they have?
UDM,
Dream Machine.
Dream Machine. Yep.
Or Dream Machine
Pro.
Yeah. And then my son's like, the Wi-Fi is kind of okay, and I'm like, but I haven't upgraded that in a long time. Like, we need to put a modern access point, so I want like a couple of new access points in a Dream Machine. And I'm like, we'll be off to the races. What he doesn't realize is with the Dream Machine, I want to have a push button to go, like, no more internet for you.
Yep.
Like, so I got this.
It's on your phone. Yeah.
But as a tangent, I got and they're basically Windows devices, and I'm really at this point impressed. And for me to say that I'm impressed by a Windows device, all of us on the show and listening know that there must be something pretty special. You were taking good drugs last week. Some good drugs. I had some good drugs lately, man. Guys, I've been really sick throughout the whole holiday. Not really sick, but like cold and flu and COVID sick. So maybe that's affecting my judgment. But I got these Asus ROG Ally. Have you guys seen these? They're basically handheld Windows devices. And they're really fast, and they're made for gaming. And I just replaced one of my son's PCs. Like, I pulled out the PC we built in 2020, which is 3 years old. I repurposed that for something else. But I put the Asus ROG Ally in. I mean, it's a constant train of updating. But once I got it all, multiple rounds of updating, he can play his games on there, like Epic Games, Steam, just as he would in his PC. And on a handheld, the other advantage is we go on a trip or we wants to go to a friend's house, he can take that handheld gaming device with him. And still, even at that, they're like, on average, you can get them like open box on Best Buy even cheaper. They're like in the $400 or $500 range. You think about building a gaming PC, it's a lot more than that.
Yep.
I'm kind of impressed, right? So, I bought a dock, a cradle for it. I hooked it up to his monitor, mouse, keyboard. I plugged a headset into the port. I'm like, this is good. This is working.
And that's kind of crazy, because when I was teaching for SANS at CDI in December, right before Christmas, that is what Mick Douglas uses as his teaching rig for SANS. Dude, and running virtual machines and all of this stuff.
Dude, it's a totally capable Windows. Crap. Like, it's a Windows device. I'm like, wait, this isn't like a piece of crap Windows device where I'm like waiting on us. I'm like, this thing is really fast. Really, I mean, it's Windows 11. There was a little bit of a learning curve for me on Windows 11. I'm like, why is Windows acting so weird? I'm like, oh, it's Windows 11. I'm like, all the menus it's just different. It's weird because Microsoft had to make changes to it. But I'm like, it's a great device. Great device. Also better than an Android device. I'll tell you that, because I got some Android devices in my environment, and I'm constantly looking at Android devices, and I'm constantly I'm frustrated, but also like I'm very cautious, and I want to put out a public service announcement about Android devices, because one of the things I tried to do, like I was telling you before the show, Larry, I have a Pixel 2 XL, and I'm like, what am I going to do with a Pixel 2 XL? I'm like, I got some Android stuff that I'm working on for my day job, and I'm like, I want to put some other kind of operating system on it. I want to unlock it, get it fully open. I want to test a whole bunch of commands on there so I can I'm trying to validate Android devices. Is this Android device good or not based on some of the articles that even just cropped up this week, right? The Pixel 2 XL, as far as I can tell, you can't OEM unlock it if it's from Verizon or AT&T, which means you can't put another version of Android on it because it's locked. The first step in putting, and someone correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I want to know. And I would totally give you credit. If you're like, Paul, you're friggin' wrong, you can totally do this. But as far as I can tell, a Pixel 2 XL, you cannot OEM unlock so you can put Lineage OS on it. That's what I found out today. And this is a hard and fast rule. I'm like, how is it that there's so many hackers in this world today, but a Pixel 2 XL is OEM locked and there's no workworkaround
What's the current version of Pixel?
The current version of Pixel is 7. I have a 7.
Because it's
8.
Because it's freaking ancient and nobody cares. That's why.
No, but it's but it's weird. But this kind of goes back to the bamboo thing. I bought this Pixel 2 XL I feel like I should be able to do whatever I want with it.
Yeah,
right?
dude, that's like saying I should be able to do whatever I want with the 3D printer I bought a decade ago.
I don't know.
There's a point where we need to throw out those Linksys WRT 54Gs.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at. Yeah, all right. I mean, 2 is old.
You know why all these hackers can't do it? Because it's old and no one cares. And maybe at the time it was a different time when you bought that phone, and now you can go to Amazon and you can spend $100 and you can get a OnePlus, whatever 9 it is now, or a modern OnePlus.
No, they're more expensive. I looked at the OnePlus stuff, dude. They're more expensive than that, right?
Dude, don't go first generation.
No,
newest
even
generation.
but even the older generation. I just feel like if you bought something, you should be able to put whatever software you want on it. And yes, I have an older Pixel, but I feel like I should be able to put whatever software I want on it, right?
Yep.
But again, this is all my kind of Android research, and there was some research recently that intersects with some of my previous air quotes research, right, in Android stuff. Bigpanzi is what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
But this is exactly what I was talking about months ago when I wrote about Android security, Android TV boxes, right? So there's 2 separate articles. This is my article number 1 and number 2. My first one says, Bigpanzi infects the devices via firmware updates or backdoored apps. The users are tricked into installing themselves, as highlighted in the September 2023 report by Dr. Webb, which I've read multiple times. My take on this first one is the apps is one way. In my analysis, when I did forensics on a backdoored Android device, there was 2 kinds of sets of scenarios happening. You get this Android device. This could be a phone, it could be a tablet, it could be an Android TV device. Doesn't matter. It's Android, right? One way attackers are getting in basically via the supply chain is via these apps. And then there's 2 different kind of subcategories of app backdooring that I put them into. One is the app exists on this Android device that you have, and the Android app goes, I need to update. In that update, it's pulling down malicious code, right? The other one is, I want to install this Android app, so I pull it down and it's doing malicious things. The third thing that's really kind of to me, when I analyzed Android devices, that was even more concerning to me, was that you or anyone else gets an Android device. Again, it could be a TV, could be a set-top box, could be a phone, could be a tablet, and it's already owned. Independent of the apps on it, the Android supply chain of the Android operating system that was made for that device is already owned. In other words, it has nothing to do with the applications that are on there. What I observed when I did forensics on some of the Android TV devices I was looking at was like it's in the core Android has already been owned. So the company that brought this device to market, doesn't matter what kind of Android device it is, the company that brought it to market got the Android-based operating system from a third party.
Yep.
And that third-party Android OS was already owned.
Hey.
And so when you get it, the Android thing starts up.
Did you say software supply chain security?
Dude, this is absolutely it. So when you get that Android device, regardless of what it is,
did you hear that?
the first thing it does is it talks out to the internet and goes, hey, I need I got stage 0 on here, and stage 0 says I need to go to this C2 address, and I need to pull down the second stage of the malware that then goes and infects all of your Android stuff and does things like it mines Bitcoin, it participates in distributed denial of service, it collects all of your credentials, it poisons your DNS so that it can selectively send whatever traffic you're going through that device for to somewhere else. It does all the shit that all these articles talk about in my story number 2, right? So like that's the most heinous kind of example.
Paul, these companies are just trying to monitor you so they make sure that you're doing things safely. I mean, I think the malicious motives that you're imputing are just simply shocking. Come on, man. You know, they just want to make sure you're being safe on the internet.
Josh, go to my story number 2, and this is a scenario that I had not anticipated. What was interesting is like I remember BrewCon like years ago. I presented like how to take over the world using embedded devices. Right? Back then I imagined a lot of things that largely became true today. Largely what I just talked about. Right? But the scenario that I didn't really anticipate was the hacktivism aspect of it. So in this campaign, it says it can misuse controlled Android TVs and set-top boxes to disseminate any form of visual or audio content unbound by legal constraints. This mode of attack has manifested itself in real-world incidents like a network attack on set-top boxes in the UAE in December, where regular broadcasts were substituted with footage of Israel-Palestine conflict. So because I can control your TV or a set-top box, I can control what content that you're seeing, and I'm using that for hacktivism and other such kind of activities to go what we were talking about last week, right? The LED signs in Russia and things like that. I can now control what content that people are seeing in different geographic regions and basically translate that into hacktivism. I did not anticipate that the content that you're consuming is now controlled by hack. Like that's crazy, dude.
Well, that's just one other type of doing it.
Correct.
I mean, Facebook has been doing that for years.
Wow.
Facebook with hyperlocal advertising.
Yeah, I agree.
And echo chambers. I mean, look what did Twitter, to a certain extent, was one of the last bastions of anybody can see anything. But you could build your own echo chamber if you wanted. Now when so much has gone on to.
But now with this, you can build someone else's echo chamber.
This is true. Valid and well said. Well put, sir. Well put. An involuntary echo chamber, if you will, which is roughly similar to what governments do as well. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist on this, right? But I think of a lot of the infighting and arguing that we do here in the U.S. and how much of that is controlled by external influences that can control the content and to a certain extent the narrative to make us want to disagree with each other or adopt polarizing views in this country, right? And there's a lot of evidence of that I think is really, really interesting to think about, right? Like a lot of the memes that you see that like spark people and spark debates are planted there by enemy nation states, right? And we almost kind of enable that by blindly adopting this technology that could allow external threat actors to control the content. And that's something, again, 10, 15 years ago that I hadn't really considered as a plausible attack vector that today is very much, as we move into an election year, right? This is stuff we have to be hyper focused on, in my opinion. Bill, you're nodding. I feel like you have something smart to say.
I do, but I'm cautious to say it because, you know, it involves racism. But recently I became aware of some propaganda. So I was doing some work in Poland and, you know, speaking with, you know, the Polish government and their military. And one of the things that we talked about was in World War II, just how Germany and Russia both used some of the ways that they did some of the you know, the disinformation campaigns and changing that. And you know, and so people my age, your age, you know, you guys, you know, like, and I just want to say before I say this word,
like mine, we're like the same age, Bill.
We are.
We're the same age.
I just mean people our age, like, and I understand that this word is, you know, it has negative you know, it has connotations in it, but like you probably remember Pollock jokes, right? When you were younger.
Yep.
So what's really interesting is the way that those started was those jokes were started as a disinformation campaign targeting Poland, right? So if you can change. Right, like if you can change.
Bill, I have an interesting perspective on this because my family ran a jewelry manufacturing company, and a lot of the workers that my dad employed in the factory were Polish. And to your point, you had this like proliferation of Polish jokes, and my family and I were like, hold on, like these people came over here. My dad adopted them, put them to work in our factories, and adored them. My dad was like, these are the like amazing people that do amazing work
Salt
for
of
us.
the earth and smart.
Like how dare,
like these Polish jokes that we heard as kids.
Yeah, like how dare you make jokes about these people because we identify them because it's funny, we talk about people from the U.S., right? Like where I'm Italian and Armenian, we came over here just like Polish people and all other people that came here from the U.S. And so my family was always like, how dissimilar are we from anyone that's coming here? And how dare you make fun of people here?
So, Bill. So the interesting part to me, real quick, Larry, you know, the interesting thing to me there is, so again, terrible. And, you know, but what a creative way of doing that. Right. So, and that was done back then, like when you're disseminating jokes for kids to say. Right. Like what a creative way. And think about how, you know, how advanced we've moved to now. You know, when you think about how you feel about the, you know, whichever side you are in the political debate, how you feel about the other one. You literally cannot believe that any smart person would believe what they believe. Right. Like, and you just see that happening. You just see that happening in our culture right now. It's unbelievable how easy it seems to be able to change opinions of the people, you know, mass people. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting topic that I wish I knew more about. Maybe Jeff knows.
He's old.
Yeah.
I remember Polish jokes.
I do want to. We can't close on the segment until we talk about PixieFAIL. And also logo fail, right? 2 UEFI vulnerabilities. I do want to talk about PixieFAIL because we had logo fail, which was vulnerabilities identified in the logo splash screen process in UEFI. Similar, not all that dissimilar, but PixieFAIL is the in with Pixie boot, right? And this is the network boot capabilities that we've if you work in IT for any number of years, right, you remember if there is no operating system, or if there is, you want to boot a different operating system, you want to do that over a network, and you want to do that in the BIOS, there was Pixie, right?
PXE, yep.
PXE that allowed you to do that. And there's also some extensions that are just absolutely like wild and crazy when it comes to UEFI, because it does support like booting over SSL. So like you can, and not many people do this. And this was one of the things when I started at Eclipsium that I was like, you can do what? And my coworker, John Lucades would be like explaining it to me. I'm like, dude, no way.
Hold on.
I'm like, hold the horse. I'm like, hold the press. And John's like, no, like, dude, like if you do a certificate and you put a certificate chain inside of your UEFI, you can like over 8 SSL boot another system. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. I'm like, who does that? He's like, well, like basically no one. Like, he's like, but it's there, right? So now we have this whole, so what Quarks Labs found, and you know who's over at Quarks Labs?
No.
Our mutual friend, Yvonne Arce.
Oh, yes, that's right. I saw something about him coming up the other, and I think
if Yvonne is still there, Yvonne led the disclosure process.
Yes.
For this particular vulnerability.
For
Yvonne is one of the most.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he's an amazing person, first and foremost. Secondly, he has led so many different disclosures because of his work at Core Security and others, and he leads the disclosure for Quarks Labs. The disclosure for this vulnerability makes my friggin' brain hurt.
Was this for Pixie?
Now, yes. And now I'm thankful that someone like Yvonne is helping with this disclosure process. But basically, you've got companies that I don't want to knock, but I want to, like, the whole process really needs some refinement when you read this, in my opinion, right? And I don't want to go ruffling a lot of feathers, and everyone can go read the disclosure process and come to the same or maybe different conclusion that I came to. However, you see, I think folks that are like, hey, we want to get behind this and fix it, and I see Inside as one of those folks that want to like really, really fix it. And I'm thankful for that, because Inside makes the BIOS for my Framework laptop that I'm using right now today. And I pre-ordered their new one that's coming out because I believe in the company and I think they make a great product. And the vulnerabilities are coming upstream from them. They're dealing with them, right? AMI, Phoenix are also, in some shape, form, degree, or fashion, also advocating for, like, let's get the fixes. Maybe we need some more time to address these issues. The thing that gets me, and I might be speaking out of turn. If you're going to call me out, I'm totally fine with that. But the thing that gets me is that Microsoft, the largest software company in the world, arguably the most resources that can be put behind fixing this particular software vulnerability, is calling for more time to fix this particular process. That's when I had to kind of take a time out. And I don't want to pick, I don't want to pick on Microsoft, because I don't think they're the giant evil software company that we could paint them out to be. I do think that they
largest company in the world,
but
billions and billions of dollars.
They do act responsibly, like most of the time. We've had interviews that speak to that, but they're asking for more time.
Now they act responsibly.
Well, like now they're asking for more time, Jeff. Like, and you can see this whole disclosure for like everyone
cutthroat.
But like everyone's, all companies involved are like asking for more time. Yvonne and Quarks Labs are being very cordial, in my opinion. And again, you can go form your own opinions and read through this timeline on your own.
For the record,
guarantee you your head's going to hurt probably just
for the record. By my quick count, and I may be off by one or two, there are 61 entries in the disclosure timeline.
Yes.
Between
holy disclosure timeline,
between 8.3 to present.
Dude,
8.3 last year to present. So roughly 3 months. 61 updates.
There's basically a lot of folks asking for more time, and some are more deserving of others, in my opinion, of more time. My takeaway, at a general level, without flaming at all those parties involved, that doesn't get us anywhere. But my takeaway from that is maybe we need to refine the process here. Like, how do we refine the process such that if someone finds a vulnerability or 9 vulnerabilities in something, we can respond to them more quickly, right? Like, my whole takeaway is, we can all, like, flame wars go back and forth in the disclosure process, and this time, like, whatever, because logo fail was another whole conundrum on that. What I really see happening is we need to tighten up our process. We need to make it so that we can fix these vulnerabilities more quickly once they're identified, or maybe commission people to find these vulnerabilities earlier. Why are you relying on a third party like Barnardly, like Quarks Labs, to find all these vulnerabilities in UEFI that are fundamental how every single PC available out there on the market today operates, And by the way, if an attacker gains a foothold in UEFI, all of those security controls are basically out the window. How do we find these vulnerabilities sooner in the process and do this? Why are we relying on third parties to do it? Why isn't Intel has the biggest stake and is closest to this? Like Intel helped develop the EDK2 standard that is the reference code implementation for UEFI. Why isn't there a bug bounty? Why can't Intel and Microsoft and maybe AMI, Phoenix, and Intel all get together and go, look, we're going to have a bug bounty, right? And we're going to pay out. We're all going to participate in some kind of equal way to go, yeah, if you find a vulnerability, we're going to pay you. We're going to responsibly disclose it and get it fixed. Why can't this? I think it's a pretty easy path to get these processes in line so that we can all live in a more secure place. Basically,
so I didn't make it through. I didn't make it through the entire timeline. Did
dude,
Microsoft
it's a long timeline, right?
I mean, I tried. I just did. Did they mention why they're wanting to push it out? And quite honestly, this is an area that I'm not real strong in. I don't understand why Microsoft really has any say. Honestly,
Bill, you ever see the Spider-Man meme?
Which one?
Right? Where there's multiple Spider-Mans.
And they're all pointing at each other? That's where, so like when someone discloses a vulnerability in UEFI, you got Microsoft, you got Intel, you got AMI, you got Phoenix, you got Inside, you got Dell, HP, Lenovo, and other OEMs. Google.
Maybe Google.
Chromebook.
Yeah, Google gets thrown in there.
Yep.
And you know what happens when this they're all in a Spider-Man outfit and they're all pointing at each other. Right? I've included that in several of my presentations that I presented last year, and it holds true today. And that's the reality that we're at. And I'm like, why do we need to have why this scenario? Why can't we just work together?
Why do they have to point why do they all have to be in Spider-Man outfits pointing each other? Can they all be in Spider-Man outfits hugging each other?
Why do they have to be in tights, man? Like I don't know. Maybe they're more comfortable in tights. Maybe.
But I mean, does Microsoft have to update Windows for the changes that are being proposed? Are they committing code to UEFI?
Yes. In fact, yes. I mean, in multiple scenarios, yes, they're either directly involved because it's their Surface hardware platform, or they're also involved because they're distributing the UEFI updates for other OEMs.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is hugely beneficial. Don't get me wrong. I like the scenario where we can rely on the operating system provider like Microsoft to help us disseminate these updates and validate these updates. That's a great scenario. It's not every single one, but Microsoft's involved. Intel's a chip provider. It's a very complex supply chain, which is why when we're in these scenarios where there's a vulnerability, disclosed, everyone's pointing fingers at each other. It was going, I'm waiting on this person, waiting on that person. In the meantime, we're all sitting there flapping out in the breeze. We're flapping out in the breeze, Bill, waiting for the Spider-Mans to work it out.
Unrelated, I'm just now noticing, Bill, is that prison phone hanging on the wall behind you?
So Larry, it's a very unique thing. I wait for people to comment, and only a few people know it's a prison phone, and mainly those that have been to prison.
Wait,
right?
no, I've never. Yeah. I mean, are you in prison right now?
No, I'm free as a bird flapping in the wind.
What, like free as a bird? You can't leave your house because you have an ankle bracelet on, or free as a bird? You
flapping in the wind because he's not wearing pants.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what's interesting, Larry, is
trivia. Do you know how the prison phones work?
That's a very general question.
Yeah, I believe that I do.
How are they powered?
Wait, electricity?
With a Tesla battery. They're sound powered.
What?
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. Like the early phones, the crank phones were. Yeah. You spoke into the microphone, and the microphone.
They only go about 4 inches through the glass and to the other side. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, those prison.
Those are different. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I've been rewatching The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Is it the 25th anniversary?
25th anniversary.
And I've been seeing all this stuff on my social, and my son was getting into it, and I've been rewatching The Sopranos, and it's an amazing show.
Holds up. Huh?
And we're talking about prison.
Dude,
that's how we got there.
Right, because we're talking about prison, because Uncle Junior goes to prison and then goes to home confinement and like the whole thing. Yeah. It's crazy. It's a great show.
Now, Bill, I want to know, how the hell did you get a hold of a prison phone?
Well, it's not the only payphone type device that I own, and all of them were acquired via statute of limitation means.
Gotcha. Understood.
Yeah.
I think Bill just said in a few words or less.
He went to prison and stole the phone.
Bill just said, I'm really good at eBay. That's what he just said.
So I don't know if you. So no, none of them came from there. So I'm sure that you probably can get them there, but that's not where I got mine from.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, Bill, I do actually have a payphone in my office. It does work. It's not connected, but the only phone that we can have connected to our landline is a 9X payphone. So I'm in the 9X region. It's a 9X payphone hanging on our kitchen wall, and that's the actual only phone that rings in our house.
Yeah, so I was on a call with Grifter the other day, and I saw he had a 9X behind him, and that to me that's the holy grail. Like I would do things for a 9X payphone. It's the holy grail. The one that I have is I think it's Southwestern Bell is what I have. I want a 9X.
If I remember correctly, my other one is a Southwestern Bell. And that's the one that's in my office, and everybody like I'm on Zoom and I've got all this stuff behind me like you do, and I'm like, is that a payphone behind you? Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you should see.
It's not a 9X though.
You should see the one that's in the kitchen. Like,
is that a 9X?
Cool. It's a 9X. Cool. That's the one that's in the kitchen is the one that I got from Twitchy.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yep. The other,
and that's a 9X, and it's functioning.
It's functioning. It's a functioning 9X.
But it's tied to a POTS line for your home.
Yes,
that's. You can
literally walk into our house.
You just earned some serious hacker points.
Yeah, you can literally walk into our house.
Like we're scoring at home.
And the phone rings and you can pick up the payphone and answer the phone via the payphone.
That is like just serious hacker points.
Yeah.
Larry, I love you.
I love you too.
I love you.
Love you too.
Like out of 100, like hacker points 0 to 100, that's like an 85.
That for sure,
right?
Like,
for sure, Bill.
That's why we get along. Yeah, I am in. That's 100 out of 100 for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, also topping that, we're talking about hacker. We're talking about hacker stuff. One last story. You got to hack a wrench,
but you can dodge a wrench.
If you can hack a wrench.
Can you hack a ball?
Can you hack a ball? That's where I was going.
Right. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, right?
Dude, these are like smart wrenches. I didn't know this. What I'm coming down to, covering this shit for 19 years or however long we've been covering on the podcast. We've been doing it longer than that. But like everything can be air quotes smart. And this is a smart freaking wrench, dude. So like it's a wrench, like a Torx wrench. Like a
torque wrench.
A torque wrench.
Battery powered torque wrench.
Battery powered torque wrench that has firmware that can connect to Wi-Fi.
So it can contain whatever torque you need to torque this specific volt.
My son is big on this because my son's into like welding, automotive, like hands-on kind of stuff. And he's like, Dad, like working on this dirt bike, like this bolt has to be torqued to
so many
a certain
meters.
Amount that's like defined by this. I'm like, I gave birth to myself. I'm like, shit. Right? You ever have those moments where you're like, oh my God. And I'm like, all right, that's but here's a smart wrench that goes out to the internet and figures out like the amount of torque that you need to apply. Turns out the firmware is complete crap. So Nozomi Networks Labs basically figures out that the smart wrench, yeah, it's great, it's smart, connects to the internet, but also it you can put like a Bitcoin miner on your wrench, which is like about that for a moment. Which
the sad part is I saw these wrenches at CES.
I'm sure you did, but also there's a tamper thing. Like, what if you could tamper with the amount of torque you need to apply, under torque or over torque the bolt? Like, you could basically lie to the wrench. So it's over torquing or under torquing. So your tire falls off, or the mechanic snaps the bolt,
snaps the bolt off during operation, which causes even more damage.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The other one that they did was like crazy. Can we ransomware your wrenches?
You could ransomware the wrenches. Why not? Why not? You can't. It's 2024. We can ransomware anything now. I want to ransomware Bill's vape. Bill's vape is totally ransomware. You want to vape some more, Bill? You got to pay me a ransom.
So there's a SQL injection on there on the wrench. There's a SQL injection on the nut.
2024. We're SQL injecting. That's a new word. I just made it. We're SQL injecting on the wrench.
All I can say is a SQL injection on a wrench is going to make me nut.
Oh, and that's it.
That's the funniest comment you've made all year, Larry.
I know. Jeez.
This is the first time you've been on the show all year.
Wait. God damn it.
That is out, Larry.
What was that?
To say that.
That's a great place to end. I think right there, where whatever Larry said. What did you say?
I don't know. Something about a nut. The wrench and sequel.
Larry, take us out.
God, jeez. Out of it. Yeah, over and out.